Hey, hello, welcome to my channel. I am Cheryl. If you are new here, howdy doody. If you are, let's say, familiar with my channel, then I guess an apology is in order. It's been more than a minute since I've put something out, but you know what? I ain't got no words for you. I ain't got no words for you. I mean, what can I say? Like everybody, I've been busy. And I know that is a really shit excuse, like, because what is busy? Like, you make time for the things that are important, right? But to be honest with you, I've had so much other stuff going on. I just haven't had the chance to really sit down. I mean, I've managed to do TikTok videos and Insta Reels because, I mean, yeah, I just have. So, was that lipstick on my teeth? If that was lipstick on my teeth, I beg, just ignore. So as I said, if you're new here, I'm so pleased to have you. And if you've been rocking with me for a minute, you know I love you. So today I want to talk about attachment styles. Now, this is a phrase that has been kind of, yeah, it's like a buzz phrase of the moment. People always, oh, my attachment style is this, my attachment style is that. Oh my God, his attachment style is that. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of people don't actually know what they're talking about, which is fine, because what I find happens is when people don't know what they're talking about, but they hear a word, we Google or we try and figure out what it is. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that this term is being bandied about. Today, as I say, I want to focus on attachment styles, but more specifically on one particular attachment style, because one thing that I get asked a lot, especially on Instagram in the DMs, which pops off, I love it. You know what? I love my Insta page because that's where it's at for me. Like, some of the conversations I have with people are amazing, but yeah, I'm digressing, something I tend to do. So some of the questions, or one of the questions that have been quite standout, is why do men ghost and then think they can come back around and act as though nothing has ever happened? Now, we all either know a man or know a friend that's had to deal with a man that's done this. It's quite common. And I think in this age where online dating is what it is and people are just believing that they have access to so much more than they actually do, ghosting is a way of almost severing, but without severing, because let's be real, unless it's done, it ain't done. And I think with ghosting, it's a very cowardice way of moving away from something without making the other person know that we're moving away from it. So whilst I think ghosting, I mean, obviously every situation is different. There's many a reason why someone might ghost, not always for the bad reasons that I guess us as women might presume. Sometimes it's about personal lives, sometimes it's about just dealing with shit, and other times it is simply down to the fact that they are just spineless pricks, straight up. Also, another possibility is down to their attachment style. So as I say, I want to talk about that today, focusing specifically on the anxious avoidant attachment style. A person that fits into that bracket would be known as a fearful avoidant. I'm going to try and break this down somewhat. Well, someone with an anxious attachment style always needs reassurance and validation. A person that is avoidant is actually quite the opposite and can get really overwhelmed by attention or shows of affection. Like, why is this plane trying to interrupt?
3 hours later.
Okay, so I think the plane has gone. Very rude. Okay, so what was I saying? So a person with an anxious attachment style is someone that needs reassurance and validation, while someone with an avoidant attachment style is actually quite the opposite and tends to get really overwhelmed by shows of affection and receiving attention. This can actually force them to shut down and withdraw from the very person that ironically they may actually want to be with, or at the bare minimum, enjoy the company of. Okay, so by definition, someone that is avoidant in their attachment style is usually extremely independent, but is very uncomfortable with intimacy, or rather being taken by their feelings. You know, when their feelings kind of get involved, they find that really uncomfortable. So like, sex is cool, but the moment they catch feelings, that could be a problem because they start to feel vulnerable and even exposed. So when you combine the feeling of inadequacy and the need for validation together with feeling uncomfortable in intimate situations, you have an anxious avoidant. An anxious avoidant habitually displays behavior that is a bit of a contradiction. For example, wanting to be close to a person and behaving in ways that indicate this, but at the same time displaying the ability to be distant and cold. So how does someone wind up being an anxious avoidant? Childhood. As with most things, how we behave as an adult can be linked directly back to our childhood experiences. Research shows us individuals that had strict parents that appeared to be emotionally distant usually end up self-sufficient, confident, and avoidant. This is purely because the parent or caregiver is not seen as a source of reassurance for the child, but the child still craves that attention from that person. Do you know what I mean? In a nutshell, the seeds for becoming fearfully avoidant are sown as the fallout of a child desperately wanting comfort, but being unable to trust the person that's supposed to give it. Then when you fast forward to adult intimate relationships, you then have an adult that wants intimacy, but at the same time fears it. So just going back to why this might relate to a man that ghosts then reappears. Having casual relationship allows a fearfully avoidant man to keep his partners at a distance, but at the same time be able to engage in sexual activity in order to fulfill any sexual desires he might have. One other thing it's also worth noting, and this is something I believe a lot of women overlook, and understandably so, because kind of speak, isn't it? It's one of those things where if someone doesn't share certain things and you're not kind of tapped in to maybe understand, or you're just not there for that, then it might be something you overlook. Depression directly affects someone's behavior. Now, we know a fearful avoidant deals with some level of anxiety. It's kind of in the name, it's kind of in the description. Anxious avoidant, fearful avoidant, they are the same thing. But it's also likely that they're dealing with some kind of depression too. Anxiety and depression work hand in hand. Now, they don't necessarily come together, i.e. you can be anxious or you can be suffering with anxiety and not depression, and vice versa. You can have depression and not anxiety, but the two are known to kind of work together. It's not abnormal to have the both of them at the same time. So if that is what's happening with an individual, you can imagine that's going to wreak absolute havoc on someone's behavior, or the kind of behavior that you would expect or you would deem as normal. So yeah, I just think before we kind of jump the gun and draw these huge conclusions, as I said before at the beginning of this, some men are just idiots. Some men don't have the balls to confront situations. Some men are genuinely tied up inside. They can't, express, they can't communicate. Not going to go into the whole thing about how society makes men behave the way that they do, but we kind of all know that thing, that theory. But I just think, to ask me why do men ghost, there's no one answer, again, as I said. But I think it's important to consider someone's attachment style when you're dealing with them. It's quite obvious. A lot of people don't realize the kind of clues that they drop when you're dealing with them. Again, if you are someone that is aware, obviously a lot of people don't consider someone's attachment style. It's not something they even think about. It's just like, is he an idiot? Yeah, F off. Is she an ass? Yeah, piss off. Do you know what I mean? It's as straightforward as that for some people, and that's fine. But other people that are a little bit more, want to delve a little bit deeper, maybe understand how people's mind works, how people arrive in the spaces that they do. You might see things, you might pick up cues, you might understand certain ways and behaviors as being that of a typical avoidant or a typical person with an anxious attachment style. So yeah, the long and short, the quickest answer is, I don't know, quite frankly. I mean, that has got to be the answer. But I do think it's important that we consider the fact that a man might have an anxious attachment style. It's quite likely he's a fearful avoidant. And if that is the case, then to a certain extent, I guess you have to pardon his behavior, not tolerate shitty behavior, because I'm definitely not someone that advocates for tolerating bullshit. I really believe that we are in charge of ourselves, and if we have an issue of some sort, then it's our responsibility to deal with that. It's not for other people to have to tolerate you. You cannot expect others to just put up and shut up. We have to take charge of ourselves, but at the same time, be a little bit patient. Be patient with people that have issues. Be patient with people that can't be free. Just be patient. That's what I would say. But don't take no bullshit. Never, ever, ever take bullshit. So yeah, that's it from me. I'm trying to keep it nice and short and sweet and whatever. But yeah, like, subscribe, comment, do what you got to do, share. Also find me across all social media, Sherryl's World. That's SHERRYLS World. Hit me up, find me on Instagram, find me on TikTok, and let's keep the conversation alive. Until next time, people, peace. That was really buzz, but we're just going to keep moving. Gonna